Where exactly are you headed at this hour?
Riverdale, sir. I have to start my new job at 7 a.m.
That is 7 miles away. Did you walk all this way already?
I walked 11 miles. My car broke down. I need this job.
That's a long way. You told me you were walking 7 miles out here at 5 in the morning.
Yes, sir. My shift starts at 6. Bus don't run that early.
Man, that's some dedication.
And a struggling 22-year-old woman's car broke down the night before her very first day at a new job. She was forced to face a choice that felt impossible. What she chose to do next stunned a police officer and started a wave of support that spread across the nation. All's path from hardship to success wasn't only about staying afloat. It was about a level of determination most people talk about but rarely show. Before we go further, we want to say how grateful we are that you're here with us. Your support helps keep this channel going, and we truly thank you for it. Take a moment and tell us where you're watching from. Whether it's New York, Toronto, London, Sydney, or a place we've never heard of, drop your city in the comments. And if this is your first time here, hit subscribe and tap the like button. We'd love to welcome you into this community. If you'd also like to support our work, consider joining our channel membership to help us continue sharing stories like this. As a thank you, members receive a special code that unlocks the full game center inside Omni Studio, our new platform where you can create custom safety cards and enjoy mind-stimulating brain games. Just click the join button below this video to become a member and claim your exclusive reward. All Voss had turned 22 only 3 weeks before the move. She and her mother had lost almost everything when Superstorm Zephyr tore through their neighborhood, destroying their home and scattering their belongings across flooded streets. Insurance covered barely half of what they needed to rebuild, so they packed what was left into borrowed boxes and headed south to Vista Creek, Georgia, where her mother's cousin offered them temporary shelter. The first week in Vista Creek felt overwhelming. All saw the worry deepen on her mother's face. Bills kept stacking up. Their savings had vanished. They needed money right away, not weeks later. Ara applied everywhere within 20 miles. Gas stations, grocery stores, restaurants, most never responded. Those that did only offered part-time work that wouldn't cover rent. Then came the call from Riverdale Logistics, a moving company 18 miles north in Riverdale. The manager, a straightforward woman named Martha Peterson, reviewed Ara's application and liked what she saw. All drove her aging car to the interview, gripping the wheel as the engine rattled dangerously. She answered each question with confidence she didn't fully feel. She needed this job badly, and Mrs. Peterson seemed to sense that. At the end of the interview, Mrs. Peterson reached out her hand. The job was hers. Full-time, benefits after 90 days. Start tomorrow morning at 7 sharp. All nearly broke down in tears from relief. She thanked Mrs. Peterson repeatedly, promised she wouldn't fail her, and walked back to her car feeling like she could finally breathe again. She turned the key. The engine coughed, shuddered, then went silent. She tried again, nothing happened. Thick, oily smoke began pouring from under the hood. All stepped out and stared in disbelief. The engine was completely ruined. She had no money for repairs, none at all. Her mother barely had enough for weekly groceries. Ara called a tow truck she couldn't afford and had the car taken to a mechanic who confirmed what she already feared. The engine was finished. A full replacement would cost at least $2,000. A temporary fix might cost $800 but would fail again within weeks. Ara thanked him and walked away, her thoughts racing through impossible math. She sat on the curb outside the shop and pulled out her phone. Riverdale Logistics address glowed on the screen. She opened the map and selected walking directions. Route appeared in blue, 18.3 miles, estimated time 6 hours and 12 minutes. All stared at the number, 6 hours. She needed to be there by 7. If she missed her first day, Mrs. Peterson would assume she wasn't dependable. The job would be gone, another burden on her mother's cousin. Another month of watching her mother pretend everything was okay while quietly falling apart. She couldn't let that happen. She wouldn't. Ara walked the 3 miles back home, her decision already made. She told her mother the car had broken down but said everything would be fine. She didn't mention the walk. Her mother would have stopped her, insisted on another solution, but there was none. That night, Alara set her alarm for 1 in the morning. She laid out her strongest sneakers, the ones with some grip left. She filled a water bottle and slipped 2 granola bars into her jacket pocket. Sleep didn't come. She mostly stared at the ceiling, mentally tracing the route. When the alarm buzzed, she didn't hesitate. She dressed quietly, tied her shoes tight, and stepped outside into the cool dark. The street was silent. No cars, no lights, just her and the road ahead. She began walking 1 step at a time. The first mile felt easy. The second was manageable. By the third, her calves started burning. The highway stretched on endlessly, lit only by scattered streetlights and the cold glow of her phone. All kept the map open, watching the blue dot creep forward painfully slow. She passed closed gas stations and dark strip malls. Trucks roared past, their headlights briefly flooding the road before leaving darkness behind. By mile 5, her feet throbbed. The shoes that once felt solid now felt paper thin against the pavement. She adjusted her stride, favoring one foot then the other, but the pain spread anyway. She checked the time. 3:15 a.m. She was moving, but not fast enough. Ara picked up her pace. Her breathing grew heavy. Sweat soaked her shirt despite the cool air. She thought of her mother sleeping at home, unaware of where her daughter was. She remembered Mrs. Peterson's firm handshake and the trust in her eyes. She couldn't break that trust. Mile 7, mile 8. Her legs were shaking now, muscles screaming with every step. She stopped once to drink water and instantly regretted it. Standing still made the pain worse. She forced herself forward, pushing through the ache that spread from her ankles to her hips. The sky began to brighten around 4:30. Morning was coming and she still had miles left. R's pace had slowed dramatically. Every step felt heavy like dragging weights. Her vision blurred from exhaustion and she blinked hard, refusing to give in. By 5 o'clock, she had walked just over 11 miles. Her clothes were soaked in sweat. Her legs shook with every stride, but she kept going. Then flashing blue lights appeared behind her, growing closer. A police cruiser. Patrolman Miles Davidson had been on duty since 10 the night before. It had been a long but quiet shift, filled with routine stops and one domestic call that ended peacefully. As dawn approached, he was ready to finish his patrol and head home. Then his headlights caught something strange. A lone figure walking slowly along the highway shoulder, almost stumbling. At this hour on this road that usually meant trouble. A drunk pedestrian, someone fleeing, maybe someone disoriented. Davidson activated his lights and pulled up beside her. It was a young woman, early 20s, drenched in sweat, pale and exhausted. She looked up with wide, frightened eyes. Davidson rolled down his window and watched her closely. She didn't seem intoxicated, no smell of alcohol. Her clothes were neat but soaked. Her sneakers were coated in road dust. He asked where she was going. The question came out sharper than intended, habit built from years on patrol. The woman was breathing too hard to answer. She bent forward, hands on her knees, trying to recover. Davidson stepped out of the cruiser. He asked again, firmer. Where was she headed? Why was she walking the highway at 5 a.m.? She straightened and met his eyes. Her voice came out broken, gasping. She said she was heading to Riverdale Logistics. She had to be there by 7 for her first day. Her car had died the day before and she had no other way. She'd been walking since 1 in the morning. Davidson froze. 18 miles. 4 hours of walking already. He looked at her shaking legs and the fierce resolve in her face. This wasn't a criminal. This wasn't someone running away. This was someone running toward something, fighting for a chance. Everything he thought about the stop changed instantly. Davidson had stopped hundreds of people over his career. He'd heard every excuse and sob story. Most were lies wrapped in partial truth. But this woman wasn't lying. He could see it in the way her body trembled. He asked her name. She said, Ivas. He asked where she started. Vista Creek, she answered. He did the math. She had already walked more than 11 miles in the dark alone, with 7 still to go. Davidson checked his watch, 6:03. Even if she kept walking, she would never make it. Her legs were close to giving out, but if he left her, she'd keep trying anyway. She'd collapse on this road, chasing a job she'd already lost. He made his choice. He told Ara to get in the car. She hesitated, unsure. He repeated it softer this time. Get in. He was taking her to Riverdale. Ara's face broke with relief. She climbed into the back seat and leaned against the window. Davidson merged back onto the highway and picked up speed. The final 7 miles passed quickly. All stared outside, too tired to talk, too overwhelmed to understand what was happening. They arrived at Riverdale Logistics at 6:37, 23 minutes early. Davidson parked near the entrance and helped her out. Her legs nearly collapsed when she stood. He steadied her and walked her inside. Mrs. Peterson was preparing for the day. She looked up, startled to see a police officer escorting her new hire. Davidson introduced himself and asked for a private word. Mrs. Peterson's face shifted from confusion to concern. Then he told her everything. The broken car, the 1 a.m. start, the 11-mile walk before he found her, the refusal to quit even as her body failed. Mrs. Peterson stood silently, staring at Ara with something close to awe. In 14 years managing Riverdale Logistics, she had seen it all. People quitting day one. Employees showing up late with excuses. Someone once slept through an entire shift and blamed traffic. But she had never seen this. A young woman so committed she walked all night rather than call with an excuse. Something shifted inside Mrs. Peterson as she looked at Ara, shaking with exhaustion but still standing. She told her to sit. She brought water and insisted she drink slowly. She asked Davidson to repeat the story, needing to hear it again. He did, adding how close she'd been to collapsing. Mrs. Peterson made a decision. This story couldn't stay quiet. People needed to hear it. The world was full of complaints and excuses. Here was someone who walked 18 miles to prove her word meant something. After Davidson left, Mrs. Peterson helped Ara settle in. She gave her 2 hours to rest before starting work. She made sure she ate and changed into spare clothes kept in the office. While Ara rested, Mrs. Peterson pulled out her phone. She opened social media and began typing. She wrote about the interview, the handshake, the promise, about the car breaking down and the impossible choice, about the walk through darkness, the police escort, and arriving early. She posted it, expecting maybe a few dozen views, maybe a local share. That would have been enough. What followed stunned her. The post went live at 7:42. By 8:15 it had 200 shares. By 9:30, 10,000. Local news picked it up before lunch. By afternoon, national outlets were calling. The story spread everywhere. People couldn't stop talking about the woman who walked 18 miles to keep her promise. Thousands of comments poured in. Some shared their own struggles. Others offered support. Many simply couldn't believe someone would go that far for a job. Someone created a GoFundMe with a small goal of $3,000 to help Lara fix her car. The link spread with Mrs. Peterson's post. Within hours, donations poured in. $5, $10, $20, $50, $100. The total climbed steadily. By evening, it passed 10,000. By midnight, 25,000. People nationwide gave. Teachers, truckers, nurses, retirees, students, strangers who'd never met Ara but felt inspired by her grit. Ara had no idea any of this was happening. She worked her full shift despite the exhaustion, refusing special treatment. She learned systems, met coworkers, and completed every task. When Mrs. Peterson showed her the post and fundraiser at day's end, she couldn't speak. She stared at the screen, unable to process it. The total kept growing overnight. By morning, it passed 40,000. Major networks ran her story. Influencers shared it with millions. All's walk became a symbol people wanted to believe in. Hard work, commitment, refusing to quit. But the biggest surprise was still ahead. It arrived 3 days later in the form of a silver Toyota RAV4 pulling into the lot. Silas Kish had built Riverdale Logistics from one truck 28 years ago. He grew it into a regional leader with 6 locations and over 200 employees. He believed in rewarding effort, but Ara's story showed something deeper. Character you can't teach. Kish followed the story from Atlanta, watching the donations rise. He made a decision that surprised even his executives. He drove his 8-month-old RAV4 70 miles to Riverdale. He arrived mid-morning and asked Mrs. Peterson to bring Ara in. When she entered, Kish stood and shook her hand. He thanked her for her dedication and said her story inspired him. Then he placed the keys in her hand. The car was hers. No payments, no conditions, just a gift recognizing real commitment. Ara stared at the keys. Tears fell as reality hit. She had support from strangers and now reliable transportation. Her mother would be safe. They could rebuild. Kish smiled and told her she earned it. He left, but the impact remained. The GoFundMe closed at 43,000. Ara moved her mother into a proper apartment and saved the rest for emergencies. She stayed at Riverdale, earning a promotion to shift supervisor. Her story became required training for new hires. Officer Davidson received recognition for his compassion. He later said stopping that morning reminded him why he became an officer. All's 18-mile walk became more than viral. It proved showing up matters, keeping your word matters. Sometimes the hardest path leads somewhere incredible, so ask yourself, when faced with the impossible, would you quit or start walking? Would you make excuses or find a way? All chose to walk, and it changed everything. If this story moved you, hit like, leave a comment. Would you do the same? And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. More powerful stories are coming, and we'd love to have you with us.